Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week here at the Damage Report. It's Monday, and thank God for that, because with each Monday, we get a little bit of Francesca Fiorentini. Francesca, how's it going?
How's it doing? Top of the doing to you.
You're
It's
so
good.
colorful today.
Yes, I had to be. I am in my mom's house, so trying not to spread too many germs. No, I've got tested
Mhm.
and stuff. So I don't know how this has to do with colorful. It's her birthday, so yeah, gotta be bright and happy and sunny.
For the birthday. I'm wearing one of the Shop TYT, if you can read this, you're not practicing social distancing shirt, because I feel like me wearing this shirt with this sort of subtle message to socially distance is now the only thing America is doing to stop the spread of the pandemic.
You're really
Things are looking
doing your
dark out
part.
there. I am. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit, as well as so much else, because what do you know? Just a couple of weeks out from the election, a lot's going on with the legal effort, the elite strike force, and the attempts to overturn different state results. We're going to be talking about those, as well as Joe Biden choosing the sort of cabinet that you would expect if you were familiar with Joe Biden. So we're going to be talking about that. That's going to be fun. And for those of you who are already here, first of all, apologies for the late start. We're having some tech problems. God only knows what they are. Every day is a fresh hell. But we're ready to go now, and there's a lot we're going to be talking about. And along the way, if you could just hit that little like button, maybe share the stream as well, more people can join us. And if you send us messages, we will be chatting along with you as we go. That said, before we jump into it, Francesca, what can people expect from yesterday's edition of the Bitchuation Room?
You're so sweet. It was a great conversation with John Fugelsang, comedian and host of SiriusXM, and also Erica Andiola of Raíces, Texas. So we talked all about immigration. We talked about John's favorite subject, which is Jesus. And
He does like talking about Jesus.
oh my God, he loves talking about Jesus. But it's like the good part of Jesus. Mostly just abs. We mostly talked about abs, and it was great. And Thanksgiving, and of course, Sidney Powell's career, which I know we're going to talk about here as well.
Oh, indeed we are. In just a little bit, you won't have to wait too long. But before we get to that, let's get to something that I believe is probably important. Most of the country seems to have moved on from this, but I'm still worried about it, so we're going to jump into it. As we entered into the weekend, we knew that Donald Trump was going to be meeting with the leaders of the Michigan State Republican Party with the obvious, explicit, sole goal of getting them to help him with whatever shenanigans are necessary to overturn the will of the people in Michigan, which voted overwhelmingly for Joe Biden to win. They want to just ignore that and give the Electoral College votes to Donald Trump. So these two Republicans, Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey, as well as Michigan House Speaker Lee Chatfield, traveled to meet Donald Trump for this meeting. And obviously coming out of it, there's a lot of concerns about what they talked about. Well, they were a bit mum initially. Mike Shirkey didn't answer questions at the airport. He sang a little bit from a religious hymn, so that's not terrifying at all, that your only response after having a meeting about a possible coup is you start singing stuff out of your religion. That's great. That's what I wanted. But the next day, Lee Chatfield was on Fox and Friends. This is just yesterday. And so Lee Chatfield wants to reassure everyone that this is not about a coup. Take a look.
To make that request to the president, was happy to do that. But there was this outrage that the president was going to ask us to break the law and he was going to ask us to interfere. And that just simply didn't happen, Pete. So I was happy to meet with the president, happy to talk with him and to kind of give him an update on what's going on in the state of Michigan.
So there was an update given, but this whole conspiracy that he's trying to twist your arm to disenfranchise voters, not true.
That's simply not true, Pete. I mean, when the president calls, you take that meeting.
Okay, so that is not the last video from that we're going to play, but I just want you to understand. So Pete Hegseth is reassuring his viewers that it's just a conspiracy theory, Francesca, that Donald Trump, who is openly talking, like all of like his favorite people in media, the advisors speaking to reporters, all of them are saying this is about overturning the results.
10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pete Hegseth wants that to happen, but just conspiracy theory. And it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, let's get to this is let's talk about the, real news, like the underground layer of child sex slaves from QAnon, like hard news, not the conspiracies, like Trump is openly trying to discredit a democratic election before our very eyes. Conspiracy. Like what?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, you only had a few seconds to before that video continued. I swear to God, this is like 30 seconds after the cut of the video you just saw. Lee Chatfield goes on about that the conspiracy theory to take the popular vote and not respect it. That's not going to happen. But maybe this will.
But the way that we have set it up here in the state of Michigan, our state law, is that, as you mentioned, it is 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And they certify the election for whoever won the popular vote. Now, as you mentioned, the RNC and the MRP have both made a request to simply delay that certification for 2 weeks until there can be a full and complete audit done in Wayne County. Pete, we have 71% of the precincts in Wayne County, their absentee ballots books don't match what's on the rolls. And that's very concerning. That's why the legislature, we've been doing our own investigations. We've been doing our own reviews of these reports of fraud and the reports of irregularities. And I think these need to be looked into. So, Pete, as you mentioned, if there were to be a 2-2 split on the State Board of Canvassers, it would then go to the Michigan Supreme Court to determine what their response would be, what their order would be. If they didn't have an order that it be certified, well, now we have a constitutional crisis in the state of Michigan that's never occurred before, because as the federal constitution says, this is left up to the state legislatures.
Yeah.
The state legislature decided long ago to do it this way. So if this way doesn't work, obviously now we have questions that have, arisen in Michigan for the very first time in our state.
You're talking about tens of thousands of votes potentially.
Okay, so we're like 45 seconds out of it's a conspiracy theory that they would ever overturn the vote. And that's not why I went to talk with Donald Trump. I went to talk to him about, well, he doesn't actually say. He doesn't say what they supposedly actually talked about. We're just supposed to fill in the blanks. And then he says, well, it's going to come down to 2-2 Republican-Democrat. And if there's a split, which means the Republicans vote against it, he's not filling that in, but that's the truth, then it would go to the Supreme Court. And depending on what the Supreme Court says, then maybe the legislature just gets to decide who wins. But wait, you were just saying, no, nothing crazy, no coup, no stealing the election. And then he reassured Fox viewers, oh no, there's a path that results in Joe Biden not winning these votes if Republicans manipulate every step along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, say the captain of the water polo team, and the state legislature is going to have to just do an audit of all of Wayne County. All the black voters. What? No, just Wayne County. No, it's about race. It's probably about race. Look, you can't trust them. Honestly, he is basically yeah, no, there's no coup, but here is the way we get to a coup. Mm-hmm. And now I've got to go train for my water polo championship.
Exactly. So, there it is. I guess, look, if you watch the show every day, do you need to see Lee Chatfield say that? I suppose not. We were talking about the possibility that they could do something like this for 2 months before the election. It seemed like a crazy long shot because it should be. Lee Chatfield, among other Michigan state Republican leaders, has been saying for weeks since the election that we would never defy the will of the people. But what do you know? They meet with Donald Trump for the explicit purpose of overthrowing the will of the people. And now he's talking about, well, maybe it's not as simple as Donald Trump getting his butt kicked. Maybe you got to get the Supreme Court involved, and maybe we got to get the legislature involved to theoretically throw it to him. Now, again, as we've said many times, even if they were to do this, that by itself does not make Donald Trump president because, again, Donald Trump didn't narrowly lose this thing. He lost 306 to whatever, a gap that they had described after 2016 as landslide, blowout, historic. But it is a reminder of how fundamentally opposed to democracy this party is, that they will do this historic thing of overturning state results, even if that just has to be part of their overall plot to actually make Donald Trump get his second term.
Yeah, you got to wonder what, I think they're just filling time. I think it's fill time until Pompeo and Trump launch a nuclear war on Iran, and then we'll have plenty to talk about. But yeah, I get your end game is overturning the will of the people and this entire election. But you're only one state, and you're actually not that important of a state at this point. So are you setting up a model? Like, what is it? So I do think it is, a Bannonite, flooding the whatever with the, S words. Does that make any sense? Flooding the whatever with S words?
I sort of get what you mean. Yeah.
Whatever Bannon meant by that. Just distracting people,
Yeah, maybe. And I mean, I don't know. I know which is worse substantively, that they'd be doing all of this to actually steal this election. But all of the, aides talking to Washington Post reporters behind the scenes are saying, yeah, Donald Trump's just not really sure like what he's going to do with his life after. And he's like trying to figure out, is he going to give speeches? Is he going to run again? And he just wants more time, and he really likes the spotlight. So he'll drag us through weeks of an attempted coup because he's not sure if he wants to do Dancing with the Stars or do speeches to corporate boardrooms.
Oh, definitely.
I don't know which
Dancing.
of those is worse.
Definitely.
Oh my God, can you imagine? He just comes out and does his little thing.
Oh yeah, he'll do this, and it'll be flamenco because then you get to wear heels, so suddenly his heels won't be as weird.
And they'll still be a little bit weird. Anyway, okay, well that's one aspect of what's going on. Even you look ridiculous doing it, let alone him.
Oh come on, I make it look good. I'm about to TikTok this.
Perhaps. Oh my God, that
with
100 million views right there.
The lips, like just put some maracas in my hand.
Oh God. That's the thing. You can Photoshop anything you want in, as I have seen on Twitter when he's done that in the past. Anyway, that's just one aspect of what's going on. Let's get to a arguably even more ridiculous aspect of this. Last week, America was forced to learn who Sidney Powell was, and it was a rude awakening because this lawyer, this person with a law degree, is talking about how Hugo Chavez is responsible for Joe Biden winning and everything. Well, look, if you have been wondering along the way, as we've been going through all of what passes for American politics over the past few years, is there a line for the Trump camp? We apparently might have found it, because Sidney Powell has been ejected from the campaign bus, which then backed up and then rolled over her. The Trump campaign on Sunday sought to distance itself from attorney Sidney Powell after she made a series of increasingly convoluted and baseless allegations of widespread national election fraud. That's not exactly why they're doing it, because they're all doing that. But Powell, who also represents former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, had appeared with campaign lawyers at press events as recently as last week. And it's really this is important that we not skip over this, because you remember this little clip?
This is an elite strike force team that is working on behalf of the president and the campaign to make sure that our Constitution is protected.
Okay, so that was funny at the time, but as I read this next graphic, bear in mind, the person hovering directly behind Jenna Ellis is Sidney Powell. So remember that, as they put out a campaign statement saying, Sidney Powell is practicing law on her own. She is not a member of the Trump legal team. She is also not a lawyer for the president in his personal capacity, according to Rudy Giuliani, who was also standing on the stage with her at that thing. Now, in a statement issued to CBS News, Ms. Powell said that she she understood the statement from Mr. Giuliani and Jenna Ellis, and that she would still be filing a lawsuit related to her allegations of voter fraud on her own. She seems a little bit confused, which again, I sort of understand, because as you can see in this photo from that same event, she not only stood behind Jenna Ellis, she addressed the nation with Rudy Giuliani, with Jenna Ellis, as a member in good standing, as of that moment, of the elite strike force. And now it's like, Sidney who? Powell what? We don't know anything about her. You did.
You know, you gotta wonder, though, like, Giuliani just melting into tar, like going down like the Penguin in Batman, wasn't enough, or standing in front of a landscaping company going, the polls, all the polls, you know, like, or standing next to Eric, or whatever he was doing, like, that wasn't enough.
No.
But suddenly Sidney Powell, and we know what's so funny about this is, I feel like Sidney Powell wasn't fired because she said nutso stuff, right? She said that there was going to be a biblical lawsuit filed in Georgia shortly. She said Hugo Chavez rigged the election in some, you know, Inception of South America, some socialist inception, which I'm all about. BT dubs, that's what we're here doing, or what I'm doing. But like, she said all these crazy things. But what's so funny is she didn't make it enough about the president, and didn't make it enough about Trump. And like going back and being like, why have people been fired? Why was Giuliani fired way back when? It's because he started to get on his own high horse and started to make it about him, right? Sidney Powell starts going off saying random stuff, but she never kept coming back to like this president, his strength, his integrity, his economy, like the way that every other sycophant does. She started going off the deep end. So I'm feeling like it wasn't even that she said outlandish stuff. It was just that she didn't make it enough about Trump. And also, let's be real, she's a 4, okay? And she doesn't have the scarves that Dr. Birx has. If you get some scarves, maybe you'll look better. Cover up the face. Like this, it's got to be something petty. That's why she was fired. It wasn't because she was just spewing lies.
Yeah, Trump thinks of her the way Hassan thinks of Dax Shepard as of today. But anyway, look, you might be right. Yeah, it's not just loyalty to the president. That's the shorthand we use. That means not going against him. But it's not just loyalty to the president. It's obsession with the president, which has to go beyond that. But look, you brought up the crazy stuff she said, so let's turn to that. As Sidney Powell goes off down that dusty trail, maybe with Trump, you never know, she could be back in a week. Let's remember some of her wilder times, including this appearance right here.
Georgia's probably going to be the first state I'm going to blow up, and Mr. Kemp and the Secretary of State need to go with it because they're in on the Dominion scam with their last-minute purchase or award of a contract to Dominion of $100 million. The State Bureau of Investigation for Georgia ought to be looking into the financial benefits received by Mr. Kemp and the Secretary of State's family about that time. And another benefit Dominion was created to award is what I would call election insurance. That's why Hugo Chavez had it created in the first place. But I also wonder where he got the technology, where it actually came from, because I think it's hammer and scorecard from the CIA.
Just to clarify, you're saying that Governor Kemp, who's been a longtime ally of the president, is directly involved because of financial benefit in the conspiracy to defeat the president in Georgia?
We have certainly been told that there is evidence of that, and it would warrant an investigation if anybody were actually going to do an honest investigation.
What more could you tell us about that alleged conspiracy? The governor's involvement?
I can't give you any more details on that now, but it would certainly warrant an investigation. If it had been reported to me as a law enforcement officer, I would be investigating it steadfastly.
I know you say you want to do your arguing in court. You are an attorney. You're not a press secretary, but you all did have a press conference last week. Jordan Sekelo said that there's going to be a filing soon in Georgia that would be explosive. Can you tell us anything? Can you make some news with us here tonight? Tell us anything new that you're going to present in that filing in Georgia.
Well, I can't say that yet, but hopefully this week we will get it ready to file.
Sidney,
and it will be biblical.
It'll be mostly in her head. I don't know. So imagine that, like, hey, I can't give you my evidence. I don't want to reveal everything. I'm not a press secretary, even though I do appearances for the press all the time. I just want to casually throw out that Brian Kemp is a commie spy, but don't ask any follow-ups. I don't want to go into it. We got to wait before court for that. That video could potentially be why they threw her to the side. Like, Brian Kemp is 100% an ally of Donald Trump. And she's effectively saying he's a plant of Hugo Chavez.
Yeah. Well, is this the Kraken? I'm waiting for the Kraken. We got to dig up Hugo Chavez's body. But you got to get through the moats of dead people that they have there. Oh, you mean in the United States, the 250,000 plus people who've died from? No, I mean the communist moats. Anyway, like what? Like she is. Look, if you look up Galaxy Brain, I think you see Sidney Powell just working through stuff. She is a beautiful, mushy mind. That's all it is.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So we played that. So look, we're not going to know for sure, but I am interested in your perspective. Rudy Giuliani has said insane things. Jenna Ellis has said insane things, and they have been elevated by Donald Trump in recent weeks, not thrown aside. Sidney Powell's the only one that's been thrown aside. I mean, lots of lawyers have fled for the hills because this entire thing is a joke, but she had to be thrown, and she's still going to be doing her stuff. Whatever you just saw there, the biblical stuff, she's still going to be doing that. So what is your idea of why she was fired? Was it the Brian Kemp stuff? Was it that the Hugo Chavez stuff was a bridge too far, which seems perfectly in line with Fox News? I don't know. Was it the weird back and forth with Tucker Carlson, or was it something else? Why did she cross a line that doesn't seem to exist for anyone else?
I said it earlier, but I do think that it's because she didn't make her conspiracies enough about Trump.
Yeah.
Like, she can make up whatever she wants, but she still has to come back to the fact that Trump is president now. He thinks he won. Obviously, he knows he didn't, but just keep on hammering it. Like, our great and glorious leader. Like, don't make it about Chavez, make it about Trump. Also, yeah, a little bit of a bridge too far. And I will just say, she might be fired, but she's absolutely going to keep working at the behest and like on behalf of the Trump administration. Like, they're just distancing themselves from her, but she's still going to be out there, right? But once they take her away, they just sort of surgically put Ivanka's face onto her. Do a little the Swan on Fox News if anyone watched that reality show where they give a full body makeover, make her look hot, and then she can say whatever she wants.
Yeah.
And it's feminism.
I guess. Well, let's check in just briefly with Donald Trump and see what he thinks about all this. All of this insane legal back and forth is ostensibly at the behest of Donald Trump, for the benefit of Donald Trump. So Sidney Powell being ejected, I guess, is what he wants, even though just a week ago he was tweeting things like, I look forward to Mayor Giuliani spearheading the legal effort to defend our right to free and fair elections. Rudy Giuliani, Joseph DeGenova, Victoria Tonsing, Sidney Powell, and Jenna Ellis, a truly great team, added to our other wonderful lawyers and representatives. Some of them, I think, have since quit. One now has been fired. And apparently, although he will never, he doesn't like to admit generally why he fires people. He automatically goes to either doesn't say anything, or he says they were a joke and nobody respected them. Why did I hire them? I don't know. Ask a different question. They've never been respected. That's always what he says. But behind the scenes, he apparently has been agitated about Mr. Giuliani and Sidney Powell for a few days, according to his advisors, complaining about how Ms. Powell had sounded at the Thursday news conference, how black rivulets of liquid had dripped down Mr. Giuliani's face, and about how long the appearance had stretched out. It was very boring. I was very bored.
There were no pictures.
There were more charts, please.
Make it like a karaoke song with put the lyrics at the bottom and a little bouncing ball, and then I could sing along. And this, John, we're talking about a guy who was mad that someone's speech went on for too long. Mr. 4+ hour rallies. Exactly.
It was long though. And so advisors over the weekend were telling him to get rid of her. Well, this is a great quote. One of those people said that even Mr. Giuliani had recognized that she had gone too far. I love that is an own of Sidney Powell, but more importantly, an own of Rudy Giuliani, that oh my God, Rudy Giuliani gets that she's crazy. That's not a good sign if it's gotten through to him. And so I guess she's gonna be going. He was very happy to have her up until recently, but just standing on the stage and talking about Hugo Chavez and the legions of the damned and all that, that's not good. That's not gonna win you any cases. And especially if this is not about actual legal victories, which it doesn't seem like it could possibly be, if this is just about creating the right narrative going forward for Trump with whatever he's going to transition to, he doesn't need that. He doesn't need Sidney Powell. That's too much.
Yeah. Agreed.
She could be at the next press conference. We don't know.
She's fun. I just like every time there's someone fun in the Trump administration, they always get fired. You know, like Scaramucci got fired way too soon. 3 days. I was super excited about him. I was like, yes, Italian jokes. I'm here for him. And then they get fired. And I'm just like, Sidney Powell was super fun, you know, just spewing the most random stuff. And then she gets let go. Ugh. Like,
Yeah.
God.
I think that's probably what it is. And let's also remember one of the things she said was that the results of the states that voted against Trump should be overturned and the votes should be given to Trump, which Pete Hegseth describes as a conspiracy theory. Trump's lawyer was saying that in media appearances up until the moment she was fired. So bear that in mind.
Yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
Okay, let's read a few comments before we launch into other news. Caitlin Forbes says, yes, our goddess Franny is back. Thank God. Thank goddess. Luke Garden says, loving your show big time here in lockdown Toronto. Schools are still open. Keep that COVID flowing.
Ugh.
Our world is a failure. Aliens don't need to invade. They just need to wait.
Correction, country. Just the country. The world's okay.
Yeah. Well, apparently Toronto's having some problems. Ryan says, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of lockdowns. The main reason is to keep hospitals functional. People seem ignorant of this. Well, certainly, yeah, they don't want to overburden them, and we're going to be getting to some overburdened hospitals soon. Otto says, what is Biden doing to free Britney? Not much. That's a fair criticism. Amethyst Cat says, yay, the damage report. Yay, the Amethyst Cat. Thank you. Tracy Nelson, thank you. Lazy Peon with a big super chat saying, I'm willing to pay to watch someone on Thanksgiving walk into Ted Cruz's house, take the turkey during dinner, and just walk out. Please don't. You will get shot. Add a disclaimer because John was going to if I didn't. And like the stream, you peasants. Thank you, lazy peon. We can't let the peasants become complacent. But anyway, Falcon Steve in the Twitch chat has a great comment. When is Franny getting her own TYT show or becoming a permanent co-host at least a few days a week? Also, Mike from PA Central Committee has been wanting you on. Well, that's awesome. I don't think he's reached out to me though. I haven't seen anything anyway. I mean, Francesca is the co-host on Mondays. That is certainly true. Her own show, I don't know. I'm not saying anything, just saying. That seems like a good idea.
You can always watch Newsbroke on AJ Plus or listen to the Bitchuation Room podcast. Look, a show, me, a show, me, a show, show me, show you. No, I'm happy. No, of course, love TYT fam. Maybe if y'all donate, they could hire me. You know,
maybe. And look at Francesca here, like mentioning that she already hosts multiple shows. 2 shows, you lazy ass. Get a third. Come on, do a show for us.
Yeah.
Anyway, on Twitch, thank you to Kelly June for gifting a tier 1 sub, and to Siren as well, who gifted 10. Thank you for that. Zakharov Lopatev subscribed for the 2nd month and said, sending love from Montana. Thank you for that, and apologies for what I just did to your name. It's all in lowercase, so it's a little bit difficult. Thank you. Frykowski gifted a sub as well. Thank you. Siren resubscribed. Thank you very much. As well as to Cat Named Crow, who subscribed for the 5th month and says, y'all keep me sane out here. Love you, Dragon Squad. You too, John. You're awesome. Thank you for that. Nordlicht says, happy Fantastic Monday, Dragon Squad. World Evil Dragon says, hello, John, and more importantly, Francesca. That's cold. Let's see. And Gabby says over on hashtag TDR Live, Russian election interference isn't half as damaging to the U.S. as the election interference being conducted by the GOP. Gabby, you're correct. I'm getting some negative reactions to who I'm choosing to focus on Twitch. But anyway, lots of other news to get to, so why don't we launch into that. Ted Cruz is not a tough guy. He never has been, never will be, but he does like playing a tough guy every once in a while in campaign commercials or on Twitter, where he doesn't have to try to deliver it with what as straight of a face as he can have. He tweeted this, come and take it with a turkey and a star. Because, like, their big battle is not against COVID. It's against people who don't want you to kill your grandma at Thanksgiving dinner. And he's a tough guy. Come and take my turkey and I'm going to do something. What would Ted Cruz do, honestly? No, like, seriously, I'm asking you, whether you're a lefty watching this or conservative, you know it. He wouldn't do a damn thing. I could walk in there. I could take the turkey. I could take the cranberry sauce, the cream corn. I could load up a bag like the Grinch and take every morsel of food he has, and he ain't doing nothing. But anyway, Francesca, before we move on to the dark twist in this, what do you think about Ted Cruz focusing as we launch into what is going to be one of the most deadly Thanksgivings ever recorded on the fact that you ain't taking his drumstick?
I mean, you know, I think that his Weight Watchers app is probably maxing out, and it's like, look, Teddy, you and I both know you've been over your calorie count every single week now. Quarantine's added them pounds, and not just in the gullet that you've tried to, you know, paper over with that disgusting possum beard. But I've said, you know, that let's just break a few things down. One, corny. You're corny, Ted Cruz. You've always been corny. That shirt, I said this on Twitter, looks like it's been, you know, was passed over 10,000 times at like a triple XL plus Men's Warehouse novelty gift store, right? Like, hey, big guy, you want to come and take it? Turkey shirt? Like, no, that's lame. No. Also,
You're insane.
If you did go and take Ted Cruz's turkey, I know what he would do. He'd be just like, his hands would be all buttery, and he'd be, it'd just be this like blubbery, like a little bit of turkey skin on the corner of his mouth. Like, how
It gets stuck in the beard.
It'll just get
It
stuck in the beard. He's corny. Secondly, so irresponsible. You're a senator. What? We are surging. Like, what is it? 4 million cases? I wish you were corny in ways that were a little bit more in line with reality. Then I might forgive you. But how irresponsible is it, especially in Texas? And I know we're going to talk about what's going on there. To put that out for the Republicans to weaponize Thanksgiving as if you hate your family, you hate turkey. No, we don't. We love our families. We like turkey, or we're vegetarian, except we break that once a year when we eat turkey. Guilty. But like, come on. It's not funny anymore. It's actually really upsetting because people are gonna die.
It is corny. I wish that he was corny in a way that didn't get as many people killed, although as many people have pointed out, it is sort of honoring the tradition for Thanksgiving to once again become about selfish white people passing a fatal disease on to other people. So we're going to have a little bit of that. But while Ted Cruz is there pretending that he's a tough guy, which is like, dude, we saw what happened with Donald Trump, man. Like, this is George Costanza coming up with Jerk Store 40 minutes later. Like, no, you're not tough. It's too late, buddy. You had a chance. It didn't work. So here's the sad thing. The pandemic is actually a big deal, and it is devastating across the country, but it is devastating in Texas as well. So while Ted Cruz, who's been chosen by the people of Texas recently as their leader, is posting cartoon turkeys on Twitter, El Paso inmates are helping move bodies into morgues as COVID deaths soar. So there were so many bodies piling up that they had to use prison labor to try to move them. And when that proved to be not enough, they had to do this. Take a look at this video. Yeah, so that's Texas National Guard soldiers being brought in, strapping on full PPE to start moving the piled up mountains of corpses that Texas is generating, probably in no small part due to the fact that their political leaders think the entire thing is a joke. And Ted Cruz is the most laughable version of this. He hasn't pretended to care about Texans dying from COVID in more than half a year, but he's not the only one. Their governor is talking about how any sort of restrictions on Thanksgiving is anathema to the holiday and all of that. And so you can expect that the corpses you just saw piling up in that video get a load of a month from now after the lack of leadership of people like Ted Cruz in Texas.
The dissonance is upsetting. It's stark. It's ridiculous. I mean, this is... we never really saw this coming, right? You know, like just the ways that Republicans denied reality didn't usually come at us so quickly in the form of body bags. But like I said, and I know that people have been protesting in this way, those body bags belong at Ted Cruz's doorstep. And I would like to see him, first of all, he couldn't move a dead body because he doesn't have the upper body strength, number one. But number two, he doesn't have the stomach for it or the heroism for it. Or the ability to do anything that's minorly disgusting. He doesn't like clean the hair, all the beard hair out of the drain, that kind of thing. He's got very soft hands, Ted Cruz does. But like, you should be on the front lines. You should be there greeting those soldiers as they come in to help move these bodies of the people and the loved ones who probably did gather with family, who probably did feel like it was safe. And who did not deserve to die, and whose blood you have on your hands, man. So, I mean, I don't look. If this were a war, once again, it's like if the enemy were what they love, which is Islam, what else? Women. If it were just Muslim
Black
women,
protesters.
yes, BLM protesters, like, where the red carpet would have been rolled out, right? You know, for any of the people, any of the wars they really want to go, you know, and fight hard. But this, nah, best to leave it, sweep it under the rug. And notice how the camera's kind of at a distance, right? It's like, that's their shot. That's all they get. This is not being amplified very much on a lot of media. So that's what you get. You get your shot around the fence, and that gets shared on Twitter.
Yeah.
And those people doing that, those troops deserve better. They deserve more recognition. They deserve an interview. I mean, I don't know if they're allowed to, but that is so traumatic and awful.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in a very real sense, people like Ted Cruz and, you know, Jesse Waters and the Crowders and all of those right-wing grifters, they're gonna get what they want this Thanksgiving, which is a lot of people spending time together and a lot of people dying. The TSA did more than 3 million screenings between Friday and Sunday, the highest 3-day total since mid-March. So the most travel during the pandemic happening at the time where we have by far the most cases already. I'm not great with recipes, but I know what dish this produces. But really fast, let's bear in mind that Ted Cruz is not just a weakling and a pathetic possum-faced loser. He's also an idiot. And so he says a lot of dumb stuff to chase political right-wing clout, assuming, probably rightly, that most people will forget about the stupid things that he says. Well, we're going to try to remember when we can. So I want you to take a look at what he had to say back on July 22nd. This amazing prognosticator, Ted Cruz, here's what he thought was likely to happen later this year.
If it ends up that Biden wins in November, I hope he doesn't. I don't think he will, but if he does, I guarantee you the week after the election, suddenly all those Democratic governors, all those Democratic mayors will say, everything's magically better. Go back to work, go back to school. Suddenly the problems are solved. You won't even have to wait for Biden to be sworn in. All they'll need is election day, and suddenly their willingness to just destroy people's lives and livelihoods, they will have accomplished their task. That's wrong. It's cynical, and we shouldn't be a part of it.
I love when he does his like fake stutter thing because he thinks it adds gravitas, like he's getting so worked up that he's not sure what to say. It is so artificial. What a possum-faced loser, as I said. Yes, it's the Democratic mayors that are trying to destroy people's lives. As Ted Cruz is using the platform he has to encourage as many people as possible to gather in a tiny space and give each other COVID for Thanksgiving. That's fun. And he couldn't be more wrong. And does it matter? No, because people getting things wrong, even at the expense of people's lives, has long since ceased to matter in America.
Yeah, because it's all about the invisible hand of the market, which has its hand, you know, right up our butts at this point. Let's never forget that they've put the market, they've put their stocks above people's lives. This isn't about the economy. This is not about small businesses. Otherwise, those small businesses would still be around. They would have gotten those PPP loans, right? They don't. They didn't. Otherwise, unemployment benefits would be extended. Otherwise, people would be paid to stay home. They don't care about business, actual small businesses. They care about their portfolios. They care about the stock market. they care about getting out and getting out good. And they don't care how many people's lives have to be sacrificed to the market, as long as the economy comes first, and only a very, very small understanding, again, of what that economy actually is.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, we're going to keep going. I mean, I think someone in the chat was saying about lockdowns, like, this is absolutely what's going to keep happening. We need to depoliticize lockdowns as much as we can. And you saw Ted Cruz trying to politicize it when the opposite is happening, right? We know that Biden and Kamala Harris have already convoked like the first task force around coronavirus, and they're not even in office. Meanwhile, Trump is golfing for what? How many times since the pandemic started? So sadly, this is all on us, and it is on us to be tested and tested and tested, to not take a flight, to not, be in close quarters with our family members, to try and to wear masks, to eat outside, to say hi and then leave. I mean, there's just like a lot of things we can do, and it's being the weird one, being the like paranoid one, because hey, that paranoia is really going to save you. That is going to be the difference in the time coming forward, because there is no leadership, and it sucks. But that's what we're stuck with, and we're stuck with knowing that. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm like, God, how can cases be rising? I've literally said I've seen no one, like, see my mom for the first time in 6 months, and I'm like, but am I doing something wrong? And then you think, no, I don't even leave. I don't gather. I don't do anything. I've never eaten in a restaurant outside. Like, I don't even do that. So it's frustrating, but there is, I can't even say there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Who knows? But we have to keep doing this.
Theoretically, there are vaccines, but it's still a long way away. And until then, there are going to be people who, like you say, take it super seriously. And in exchange for that, they get to say things like, I get to say, I don't have COVID and I haven't had COVID, which is kind of nice. Don Jr. can like joke about it on Twitter, but he's also got COVID. So the joke's on him, and the disease is on him, more importantly. Now, there are also people that, unfortunately, because our country has decided, screw you if you're working class, we're going to give you a tiny bit of help for a tiny period of time, and then you're on your own. Yeah. There have been plenty of people that have been forced due to their economic circumstances to engage with the world, and many of them have gotten COVID, many of them have died. That is a shame that should never be forgiven, that our country allowed that to happen, made the choice for that to happen. But then there's also a lot of entitled, stupid a-holes that are so selfish that they will infect not only themselves, but others with this disease, all while making insane, stupid predictions like Ted Cruz. And it wasn't just Ted Cruz. Donald Trump was saying things like this.
It's COVID, COVID, COVID. You can't watch anything else. On November 4th, you won't be hearing so much about it.
Except that you will, because the cases were rising on November 4th, and they still are. And he was tweeting, oh, the fake news media wants to talk about is COVID, COVID, COVID. On November 4th, you won't be hearing so much about it anymore. We're rounding the turn. And he kept saying it. At least 40 times he said that the virus would go away. But again, it wasn't just him. It was even like his lesser child, Eric Trump, saying it's just a ploy to stop his campaign. It will magically disappear. Does he have COVID? Not yet. He'll get it next week.
Soon,
you have idiot grifters like Dave Rubin saying, can we all admit that the pandemic is over now? Like, at least give us that as you peddle the rest of this nonsense. On November 5th, as cases were rising, and they're still rising, and a couple thousand people are dying every day. But again, America has made the decision that we are going to pay people and give them power based on how much they say things that make me feel warm and nice inside, not the distance between what they say and the truth. Yep. That's a decision we've made, and so we get grifters like this in media and politics.
Yes, but we will not rise to this challenge. We will bury our head in the sand and say that we're macho for doing so, and deny until it comes knocking on our door. And then we'll still deny it. We last week, John, you and I did that story, and we talked about nurses who are attending patients who are still in disbelief, who still believe COVID is not real. And like we all think that we're above it. We think, oh yeah, well, I believe it, and therefore I'm taking precautions. But it's amazing how it trickles down. It's amazing how these idiots who, you're right, have been upheld as somehow leaders, how even their idiocy or their fake machismo does trickle down to everyday folks who might otherwise believe something like this. As if like, oh yeah, we're in the know. We know that it's fake. We're cool because we know it's fake. No, It's unprecedented. We are in crazy times. It's okay to feel crazy, but like, kind of like, take your hat off to history, bro. We're not even in a studio. I mean, this is how long have we been in quarantine and in our homes doing this show? You just got back to the studio by yourself, just you and the daddy long legs up in there. It's crazy times. We're all making sacrifices, and yeah, it's one for the history books. So deal with it.
It is. Yeah, it 100% is.
I mean,
Okay,
God, yeah.
We're going to turn to some other news shortly, but first, let's read a few comments. Pudding Lover sent in a super chat saying, "Let's hear it for Ted Cruz, who is still displaying enthusiastic support for a dude that insulted his family." 100%. Dude, you can tweet as many cartoon turkeys as you want. We know who you are. Okay, let's see. Franklin Sharpslicer says, "Maybe I'm dense and maybe I'm rude. I thought QAnon's for those addicted to Quaalude, though I do have a bit of insight listening to Powell. Maybe I'm right. P.S. Lovin' Cruz's turkey. It's in my oven." He wouldn't do a thing. Anyway,
You're making it better.
Feisty Fan says, "This coup is more anxiety-inducing than the last 3 years. Yikes. Joined D&D Beyond in the meantime. Escape from reality the best way." Big fan of it as well, Feisty Fan. Glad. Jaden Dester says, "Wayne County voter here. At this point, our votes are so suppressed, gerrymandered, purged." I've never had to deal with any of those. We're having some kind of tech problems. It's a cool animation, at the least.
That's very cute. It's like The Revenant, where he's like eating the snow.
Exactly. I don't know if I should keep going or not. There we go. Okay. What were we talking about? Hold on a second. Let me undelete that. Oh yeah. So, totally understand where you're coming from about the Wayne County votes, but the thing is, why are we having this last-ditch effort to, not respect the will of the voters? Because so many people in Wayne County voted and changed the outcome of the vote in Michigan. Like, those votes are gonna go to Biden, and it was because people like you and so many others did vote, despite all the insane obstacles that no American should ever have to deal with. Thank you for participating. Tails says, "I have been alone for 245 days. I wish people would stop being selfish so maybe I can have a hug. Please, I miss my mom and dad." That is devastating. That is devastating. Yeah, like I get depressed sometimes that it feels like I'm literally never going to be able to go to the gym again because we're never going to learn. But yeah, I've been lucky enough that I've been in a tiny apartment and we've both gone insane, but I've been with my wife the entire time. But I have friends who've been alone this entire pandemic, and millions of Americans have been alone this entire pandemic. And maybe some of them, because of how stressed out they are, turn to these conspiracy theories and the anti-government stuff and all of that. But a lot of them are suffering because so many people are being selfish. We could have already conquered this thing. We could have been done 5 months ago if we had cared the bare minimum, but we didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't.
And ironically, it is because of our mentality of like extreme American individualism that has made us so pig-headed when it comes to tackling this as a whole country, as a unified community. And it's like, this is a time when, even though we're separated from one another, we really are all in the same boat. We should be pulling together, and we don't have the kind of leadership that does that. And so I just have faith that, as a society that's become increasingly isolated anyway, that coming out of this pandemic, that maybe we can carve out a new American culture where we are together more in person, giving each other hugs. Hell, I know if I get out of here, I'm going to give everybody a hug. I don't care who you are. I mean, consensually, but whatever. But like, I think that is, COVID is that black light on this country, and it's definitely exposing all the ways that we need to be better. And one of those is, breaking out of our bubbles safely and working together. You know what I'm saying? Is that too much on a Monday? Is that too much optimism?
No, thank you for that, and thank you for not going farther with your blacklight analogy. I assumed that you would based on my knowledge of you. I'm glad that you went in a different direction. Now, that said, everybody in the chat's like, I need a hug too. Francesca, a world tour, hugging people around the world. That's what we need. Okay, with that, we have 2 more topics. I think we might be able to get to both of them. So let's approach the exact same topic from two very different directions. From the land of the deluded, and then from the actual issues that we gotta deal with. Okay, so let's launch into this. What is Biden's cabinet going to look like? Well, it depends on who you talk to. If you get your news from Fox Business, they just make up whatever they think will scare their audience the most. This was a screenshot tweeted by Ilhan Omar. It says everyone at Fox truly lives in an alternate universe. So if you're listening to the podcast, this is graphics from Varney and Co. about what his cabinet will look like. With Ilhan Omar as the Secretary of Homeland Security, Rashida Tlaib in charge of the Department of Justice. I guess she's the AG. Elizabeth Warren's in charge of Treasury. Bernie Sanders is the Defense Secretary. Sure. And Andrew Yang's in charge of Transportation. Why are any of those there? I guess because Varney thinks that will terrify his audience. And the idea of Ilhan Omar, oh my God, she's got a job on and she's going to be in charge of Homeland Security, the whore. This is their nightmare in this graphic. It doesn't make any sense to me. Who is talking about Bernie Sanders being the defense secretary? I'd love it, but who's actually talking about that?
This is what a dream team. Yes, once again, Fox News graphics team, just like, you know, threatening progressives with a good time, as they've been saying. And yeah, I definitely feel, I mean, God, it's not going to happen, sadly, but only Muslim Americans should be in charge of the defense of this country, because I have a feeling that would stop endless war very soon, because we seem to be really obsessed with invading majority Muslim countries over the last 30 years or 40 or 50 or whatever. And Bernie is defense secretary. Yes. Yeah. Right. I feel like it'll just be like teaching you how to build a fire with which to, you know, burn down all of our military bases abroad that are unnecessary. Not burning. Dismantling and selling for parts. No,
just turning into affordable housing.
Yes, absolutely. For the local communities that we've devastated with our F-16s and whatnot. If only, John, we can, you know, one day.
100%. No, you're 100% right. Yeah, no, okay, sure. Ilhan Omar, head of Homeland Security. Let's try that out. Bernie Sanders, head of Defense Secretary. They weren't originally going to be my picks, but you're scared of it. And because you are literally 100% wrong about everything having to do with defending this country, I guess the opposite must be right. How about this as a general rule? When you've been uncritically supportive of our entire Republican defense apparatus that failed to protect human life in America worse than anyone in human history has ever done, maybe you don't get to choose who's in charge anymore. After all, you were cheerleading them as 250,000 Americans died from this virus. Now, you might say, well, come on, is that really a fair comparison? I mean, it's not a military invasion. That's the thing. It isn't. It's a public health crisis that we should have dealt with. But you've been saying it was China sending it to us. Our adversary, China, that you hate, sent a biological weapon in here, and you guys let 250,000 people die. So maybe you shouldn't be in charge anymore. Maybe someone who actually wants to stop this wanton loss of American life on a daily basis should be in charge. Yeah. I think we could do a lot worse than Bernie Sanders in that respect. But anyway, what's interesting is that sort of graphic has no relationship to what Biden is actually choosing. And at some point, as the choices come in, and we're going to get to some of the choices in a minute, some of Fox has to actually respond to that. But don't worry, they've found a way to get around the fact that they predicted it would be filled with insane red radicals. Here's Fox and Friends this morning.
Are names that Fox News has been told are pretty much a done deal. We will not, however, know until tomorrow when the appointments are officially announced by
and then they have to get confirmed.
Oh, they do. And that's why they're going more for the centrists than the radicals. And you know, so far what we have seen, we haven't seen any of those radical names, Ainsley.
And I will do absolutely nothing to integrate that into my worldview going forward. This prediction I made that was based on nothing and is being proven to be 100% false, I'm going to move on from that without learning anything. But don't worry, it's not that Biden is like literally the like if you looked for establishment centrist Democrat in the dictionary, his face would be there. It's not that. It's he really wants communists in all these positions, but he'd have to get them confirmed. So he's going with the centrists that we predicted he would have all along. That's probably what it is.
Doesn't matter who he picks. It does. I mean, that's the thing. It's like we might as well go with Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren for Treasury because it doesn't matter. They're all going to be far left. It really doesn't matter.
By their very nature.
By their very nature.
Yeah, exactly. And so right there, Ainsley Earhart, I think is her name, said, don't worry, they still have to be confirmed because now all of a sudden that sort of oversight matters. And
Yes.
I mean, there's nothing Biden could do. I mean, he wouldn't like put in acting heads of these departments without them being confirmed. I mean, that would be crazy. They'd lose it in the same way, presumably, that Fox and Friends has been losing it for 4 years because under Trump, acting officials have held down 22 cabinet and cabinet level jobs for a combined 2,700 days, about 1 out of every 9. But just for minor things like, you know, Homeland Security for more than a year, the OMB, or indeed the chief of staff himself, the EPA, the Defense Department, the VA, the Director of National Intelligence, Health and Human Services with a pandemic, the Secretary of State, Labor, the Attorney General. Virtually all of these had acting heads because Donald Trump couldn't be bothered to have a Republican Senate confirm his picks. But Joe Biden should definitely abide by whatever Mitch McConnell's okay with, I think.
Right. I mean, didn't we just learn last week that like Chad Wolf has been like acting illegally for like 9 months or however long he's been in office? Like everything he says, we should not have ever listened to. You know, this is the guy who's got the destiny and fate of, you know, thousands of migrants in his hands. Supposedly has like teams like BORTAC special military units deploying to major American cities because of him. I mean, like, this is, again, we talk about this, but back to the norms that we need to do away with because we need to make laws. You can't have an acting secretary for more than X amount of time. Otherwise, they're out. Done. You know, right? Removal. You don't have to listen to their orders.
Yeah.
They don't get the lower third.
I agree.
They don't get the lower
100%
third.
agree. And suddenly, you know, they're going to care about that going forward. I just love that, like, just pretend that they were always going to be radicals. Oh, they're not radicals? Does he get any credit then? Since you didn't want them to be radicals and now they're not, does he get any? No, he doesn't get any credit. Not from you. Okay.
They're
well,
gonna
you'll
have an
also be shocked to
epiphany,
find out.
John. Just you wait. The epiphany, the Republican epiphany is coming that Biden was talking about.
Bipartisanship. I can hear it on the wind. Well, here's the thing. Biden is not going to get any credit from Fox and News for some of his recent picks, but he's also not going to get much credit from the damage report for some of his recent picks. So let's turn to that last story. Bit of breaking news: new cabinet level picks being chosen by Joe Biden, the president-elect. Simply saying that is a radical statement in America, apparently. But some of them include John Kerry being the climate envoy. Don't love that. DNI Avril Haines. So girl power coming to the director of national intelligence. That's going to be awesome. And then also, most importantly, the biggest one is Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who, look, I'm not going to say that I was super familiar with his work before this announcement, but I'm learning stuff as a result of it, and so far not loving it. We'll get into some of the details, but what was your reaction, Francesca?
Well, so Antony Blinken, looking and learning a little bit more about him, it seems like he was deputy to the Secretary of State, I guess, under Obama, which is always good because you're like, you kind of want someone who like saw the way that their boss effed up and is like, I'm going to do it different. He is an internationalist, or if you're Alex Jones, a globalist, meaning he is aware there is a world outside of the United States, and we might have to work with that world if we want, you know, peace and stuff. And that's always good. He lived abroad, apparently in Paris for a long time. So did James Baldwin, so that's a point in his favor. Love that. He plays the guitar and he plays soccer. So clearly, you know, an elitist coastal globalist, i.e., pretty much like anyone who's cool and like is relatable, plays the guitar and like and soccer. So whether or not he's actually going to make change, whether he's not, I do think it's a step in the right direction. So happy about that.
Sure.
And happy to give him a chance going forward and pressure him when it comes to what we all know is really important, which is making sure that the United States has an actual standing in this world. And I don't mean George W. Bush intervention, wars of aggression standing, right? I don't mean 94 Bill Clinton NAFTA standing. I mean being leaders of demilitarization, being leaders in climate, in the climate crisis, being leaders in diplomacy. Can I get a woot for diplomacy? No? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's funny. No, I love your method of vetting him based on his hobbies. It's a method that has only previously been used for Pete Buttigieg circa the Democratic primary, if you recall that. But yeah, so let's talk about him, because obviously going back to that era of foreign policy under Obama, which we've all sort of been assuming is what we're going to go back to, and it looks like we're not only going to be going back to it, but with literally the same cast of characters, has some good and some bad. But I want to read a few of these graphics, because one of them has a little turn of phrase that I think just does so much work. That's great. So really fast. So choosing not only Antony Blinken, but also people like Linda Thomas Greenfield as ambassador to the UN sends a signal to our allies that blah, 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 we're going to be involved in world affairs again, which some of that isn't necessarily bad. Blinken was Biden's national security advisor when Biden was vice president, and then served as deputy secretary of state in the last 2 years of the Obama administration, was involved with things like the creation of the nuclear accord. So that's where, in theory, engaging in the world via diplomacy can result in a cessation of hostilities and tension rather than an escalation of it. So that's the good side. The bad side, though, is things like this, and I just love this. In that role, Mr. Blinken helped develop the American response to political upheaval and instability across the Middle East, with mixed results in Egypt, Iraq, Syria, and Libya. Those mixed results, like the letters are straining under the weight of all of what they have to contain. Mixed results in Egypt, Iraq, Syria, and Libya. I guess what's mixed implies that there was some good too, and I'm not sure that I'm really seeing much. It's been chaos. It's been widespread death and destabilization. I don't get the mix, though.
I mean, I think, interestingly and in a really good way, moving forward, and especially with someone like Biden, gives us a chance to look back on what was good and what was bad about Obama's foreign policy. And sorry to say, progressives and lefties, it wasn't all bad. It wasn't, right? I mean, the way that Kerry worked to ease tensions with Cuba, I mean, that barely happened, right? That narrowly happened. The Republicans hated it, and it only was announced when it was actually done. So a little bit of easing of the embargo, easing travel restrictions, that was huge. Obviously, the Iran deal, huge, right? Also, the right hated it, but they were arguable successes. Egypt, we gave so much money to El-Sisi and the military the military regime there. Syria didn't invade, which is great, really important. Gave a lot of arms to maybe unfavorable and not so wholesome entities we gave arms to. But, Syria was, I mean, that is a whole episode we could do. It's a whole can of worms. A lot of people, even Syrians themselves, feel like the U.S. didn't do enough. To me, as someone who doesn't believe in intervention, is like, no. We shouldn't have done anything, right? Iraq and Libya, we know, was a disaster. But these are all great conversations, and I'm so excited to be having them under some kind of less awful American presidency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, you're 100% right. It is frustrating because, of course, he has been a part of going along into a number of disastrous and some still ongoing international crises, like the war on Yemen, obviously the continued death in Syria and all that. And you're right. In theory, those situations could have been even worse. Hopefully this individual has learned something in the intervening years, where he co-founded a political strategy advising firm. But anyway, there will be some good. There will probably be quite a bit of bad. We begin this coverage just to let people know sort of what the form of the fight we're about to engage in is going to look like, where there are some opportunities and where there are some causes for alarm as well. We're going to obviously talk more about Blinken as it goes forward. But yeah, what it is looking like is Biden is going to largely choose the sort of cabinet we would have predicted, with a good amount of representation of the non-ideological sorts. Like, there's not necessarily a lot of breadth of disagreement on ideology. They tend to fit in that sort of Obama-style democratic politics, which has upsides, and all of it is upside in comparison to the insanity that we're now trying to transition out of. But it's still going to have a lot of the same sorts of issues that we were talking about every day back under the previous president.
Yes, and also, by the way, just going forward, when it comes to foreign policy, right-wingers are going to continue to argue that Trump was and is an isolationist, and that is utter BS. First year, mother of all bombs in Afghanistan. Increased drone strikes, exponentially increased drone strikes. We think Obama is the drone king? Nuh-uh, not compared to Trump. From that to the bombing in Syria, like, he's not an isolationist, he never was, and he never will be, and all of that is BS. So let's just remember that he's a hawk and don't buy into that. Just because he said he didn't like the war in Iraq, please. He said he would have taken all the oil. So yes, as we move forward, I'm excited to have these discussions, but let's not forget that the right wing is going to be gaslighting us about how they were so peaceful and they sicked their own military on their own people. They brought the war home.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Yeah, he couldn't even stop himself from intervening in D.C.
Exactly.
In other countries.
Exactly.
That's a great point, and let's try to remember that. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting transition period to what do people remember and what do people forget of these years. We're going to have to watch and see what lessons are learned, which are attempted to be like invented based on a selective forgetting of this time. Great point. But that said, we are out of our time. Francesca Fiorentini, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you here. Where can people watch more of your fantastic work?
Oh, thank you. Watch Newsbroke on AJ Plus on YouTube. Watch the Bitchuation Room every Sunday on my YouTube /Franny Fio. Listen to it as a podcast and follow me on all the social medias. And giving you all a big virtual hug, and you as well, John, I guess.
Thank you. I like the reluctant hug. Thank you, Francesca. Have a good one.
You too.
And for those of you at home, let's read a few more of your comments. Thank you to everybody who joined us today on the show. Let's see. John Person says, "Hi, John. I couldn't find sources on Sidney Powell encouraging a Trump write-in for the Senate runoffs, but there is a campaign on Parler to get people to boycott. Thank you for that." Yes, I had heard about the Parler boycott. I don't know how widespread that sort of thing is going to be. I think that there's a lot of Republicans that no matter what they think about what happened to Trump, because remember, even the ones who think that it was stolen, they only think that it was stolen. They're saying that it's stolen. They want to feel that it was stolen. That is not necessarily the same thing as actually believing it, because actual belief can influence how likely you are to vote in other things. If they're just mad, that doesn't mean they're not going to vote. In fact, it could mean they're more likely to vote. And those Senate seats are still really important. So we'll see. Let's see. MSM says, "I used my boyfriend's YouTube account a few times last week, and now TDR is appearing in his suggestions. It's officially become my goal to make him a Dragon Squad member. Happy Fantastic Monday." MSM, hello. And a preemptive hello to MSM's boyfriend. We look forward to joining you into our flight. Let's see. Druggist of Dragons says, "I live in a wealthy county in California, and right next door is a Latino family who lost six people to COVID. No words." Exactly. And, we got idiots like Don Jr. that are like joking about it as he has it, because of course he's going to be fine. He's Dr. Johnny Bananas is going to do a house call. He's going to get whatever he needs, 1 billion doctors. Regular people who tragically listen to him, not so much. Don Jr. is not going to be delivering anti-serum to the people that get COVID over Thanksgiving. Matt Gunnarsson says, "Is it really good to take the good ones out of Congress?" That is definitely a debate. I don't know. It depends on each individual one where you come down. I want Bernie in the Senate. If Bernie wants to be Secretary of Labor or whatever, then I'm not going to say no to that. But it would suck to not have him anymore, especially knowing that he's unlikely to be replaced by someone nearly as progressive as he is. Okay. So I'm getting a comment here from Bart who says, hey, John, don't sweat it that John Kerry is going to be Biden's climate czar. It kind of makes sense. John Kerry's one with nature. He looks like one of those tree creatures from Lord of the Rings. That's an Ent to you, sir. And he does look exactly like the Ent screenshot that I'm seeing here. Anyway, wait, and now Bart and Craig are having a big disagreement about whether John Kerry looks more like a statue from Easter Island or an Ent from Lord of the Rings. What is going on in my comments document? The correct answer is Ent. He looks more like an Ent. Anyway, let's see. A broken demo disc says trickle-down economics. It's like what happened to Trump and those girls in Moscow. That ain't right. That ain't right. Gemini Lily says, I'm afraid our medical complex is going to break down. Well, I'm sure, look, the stress is rising on a lot of these healthcare professionals. They are going to have to experience an elevated version of all of the horror that they've been experiencing for literally months. It's possible. It's certainly possible. And let's see. Over on hashtag TDR Live, Jeremy Effinger says, John, possums are cool. Please don't compare them to Ted Cruz. I know. I felt kind of bad. The only reason I said it is because she talked about his possum beard. I'm writing, as many people know from casual comments, I'm writing a fantasy novel set in a world of animals rather than humans. And the sidekick is actually a possum. So I have a lot of love in my heart for possums. They're adorable and terrifying creatures. Ted Cruz is just the terrifying part and kind of pathetic and laughable. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for joining me for this first show of the week. We've got a lot planned as we head into Thanksgiving. I had actually intended for Francesca and I to do a top 10 things we're thankful of, but I forgot. So I'm going to try to see tomorrow when Anna Kasparian is on the show. Maybe I can get her to play along with a little top 10 list. And we've got more than that coming to J.R. Jackson on Wednesday. Lots to look forward to. So thank you, everybody, for watching. I will see you tomorrow. And until then, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.